So I have autism. If you didn't know, sure you're aware of that.
Yep.
So I wrote this joke. He's like, "No, Dave, don't tell it." So frequently, when if I explain the joke, then it's not funny. Isn't that how that works?
Yep. just tell it. Just tell it.
Oh, all right. Have you heard of resting bitch face?
Yes.
Yeah. So I know plenty of people that have that.
Mm-hmm.
I have resting autism face.
Yep.
So if something is incredibly funny to me or incredibly sad to me, that's my face.
Yeah. Yeah, the Shane Gillis face. You ever see that?
Shane Gillis face?
Yeah.
No, show me.
Well, I can't do it.
Oh, what is his face?
He looks like a person who has Down syndrome, and it's hilarious.
I mean, he naturally does.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've heard the joke that he tells about that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Do you want to see an autistic person go through 20 different emotions?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's hear it.
Done.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same goes for a person with ADHD.
ADHD?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll take your word for it.
Because that's what I have.
There you go. He's like, I can't stop tapping my foot.
I can't stop moving. Yeah. And I don't even have the hyperactivity part.
We had these little shield things on the bottom of the table here that were plastic to basically keep people from hitting themselves on the metal. I had to take them off because
I kept hitting it.
He kept hitting it. He's just like,
Yeah. I kept kicking it.
Yeah.
Could you imagine if I actually had the hyperactivity part? It'd be way worse.
I can.
I wouldn't be able to do this.
He's like, I can't do that.
Mm-hmm. I'm looking at this tank screen and I'm like, man, I wonder how big that water is. Like that water splash.
He's like, man, it's crazy.
Yeah. Looking at this Dear Podcaster video, I'm like, I'm going to watch that one after this. Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't it awesome?
It is. I did some research and I'm like 90% sure I have Tourette's syndrome.
Tourette's comes in a lot of different facets. Yeah, you might.
So I did some research on it, which did a bit of research, which is an autistic trait.
Yeah, it is.
And that's okay. Did a deep dive into Tourette's syndrome.
Yep.
And so what I found out is basically there's 3 different words for different types of basically not Tourette's, but for different twitches, if you want to call them that.
Yeah, ticks.
Yep. So basically, there's one where it's only physical.
Mm-hmm.
There's I'm not even gonna remember all of them. Tourette's, you have to have a verbal tic as well as a physical tic, and basically, it has to be something that happens on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
Possibly almost like once an hour in order for it to be considered Tourette's.
Yeah. And
I counted how many tics I have, and it's something.
Yeah, that's not autistic at all.
I have.
You don't count your bodily movements every hour?
Well, no, I was curious how many different ones I had.
Oh.
Not just how many I do.
Okay.
But I did count how I don't remember the number, but I was counting how many I did in a certain amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
But I was also curious, like how many different ones I have, and it's like over 60.
That's great.
It's over 60.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was trying to explain to someone the other day because I pretty much never tell. I've started telling people I have autism because then it helps them understand me better.
Yeah.
And it's basically there's on the DSM-4, I think is a technical word for like the psychology stuff. So I studied some psychology in college. There's multiple sections. And then when you fill out the form or you can look at it, you have to, in one of the forms, you basically have to hit every single one of them. Mm-hmm. And then in the next one, you have to hit a certain number out of it in order to be considered autistic.
Yeah, it's almost the same test as ADHD.
And so I hit every single one.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I didn't have one of them on the top section. And then the second section, I had like 3/4 of them.
Yeah.
So I'm not, if you're an extreme in a specific area, you're considered autistic, but you have something specific in that area.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like trying to think of what one of the words is that they use for it. People that literally have no idea when someone uses tone or facial expressions, what they're meaning by it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a specific name for that. For people who struggle to talk at all, there's a name for that. If I get frustrated or get emotional, I struggle to talk. Just like frustrated, like not like happy, but
Mm-hmm.
like when I'm trying to think of things or whatever, like I'll struggle just to talk across the board.
Mm-hmm.
Just like saying anything is difficult for me, which I've never like thought about it until recently, and it's never really bothered me that much. But it does help me communicate to other people and help them understand how to talk to me.
Mm-hmm.
To where if I pause for a long period of time, it's because I'm thinking,
Mm-hmm.
Which isn't a bad thing. But so as far as Tourette's is concerned, I was trying to explain to someone the other day what it's like. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And so, for those of you out there that don't know, which there's plenty of people on TikTok that have Tourette's and have significantly more extreme versions of Tourette's, same with autism than I do. And I'm not trying to compare myself to anyone. And I honestly, 99% of the time, well, that's probably not true. Most of the time, it doesn't impact me that much or keep me from doing things. There's certain things that I'm horrible at job interviews because I just answer the questions with the correct answers, but I don't have emotion in them. And so people want you to show emotion in job interviews and feel you're friendly and whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I want to get the questions right.
Yeah.
And so I was absolutely horrible at job interviews, even though I answered all the questions correctly. And so I would go talk with other workers of mine. They're like, yeah, we went and interviewed for the same thing. They're like, what do you answer? I'm like, oh, here's all my answers. And they're like, wow, that's way better than what I answered. They would get the job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're more personable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As far as in the interview.
Yeah.
I do fairly fine
Mm-hmm.
outside of interviews, but like when I'm in an interview, I'm like, oh, I'm going to answer all the questions. And I didn't know I was autistic until a year and a half ago.
Yeah, I didn't know I had ADHD until about 2.5 years ago. And guess what? It cripples me. So yeah. Yeah. I should have never found out about it.
Oh God. So with Tourette's, what I found out that helps people understand what it's like is, have you ever gone to the dentist? And when you're at the dentist, they're like working on your mouth, and all of a sudden you feel the urge to swallow in your throat.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, I need to swallow. And if you don't swallow, that just like desire to swallow just keeps building up and building up. You're like, oh my gosh, I need to swallow right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to swallow. And you're like, ugh. And you finally swallow, right? And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I feel relief when I got that done. I have that with all of the tics I have. That's the feeling I get if I don't do something. And there's ways that I have learned to minimize it. Kind of like if I do like a half swallow, kind of, if that makes sense. Like when you're at the dentist, I can kind of like stave off the feeling of needing to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I get those same thoughts.
And I felt like I could. I learned that I could. They used to call me Twitch in grade school because I had so many different things that I did.
Mm-hmm.
I got beat up a lot, like a lot. But that is what it is.
Yeah.
I was like the youngest kid in my school in my grade almost every year, and so that I was, even though I'm like 6'4" or 6'4.5" now, I was like grew up to be like 6'5".
But you went to a huge school though, right?
Yeah, I ended up being a 4A school.
Oh yeah, so
but yeah.
No,
so I had like one kid in my grade that was younger than me, and the grade below me had like 10, 15 kids that were older than me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So either way, so I wasn't like a big kid. I was just like normal height, and I had autism and Tourette's, and so I got beat up a lot. Probably until I was like, I got punched all the time from probably third grade until I was like a sophomore in high school, maybe even second grade. Not so much second grade, third grade on.
Dang.
Yeah. So like I'd have bruises all over my arms.
I was the big homie, man. Nobody messed with me.
I would talk to teachers, and they're like, we don't see it. we can't do anything about it.
You don't see my black eye, dude?
I'm like, do you see my arms are like covered in bruises and
yeah, no.
They didn't really care.
That's terrible.
But
I had 18 people.
It is what it is.
I had 18 people graduate in my class.
18 people. Mm-hmm. There you go.
Yeah, that's why I was big dog, man. There's 180 people in my school.
If I went to a school that small, I'd be like playing every sport. They would love me in basketball.
I did. Yeah.
Yeah. But so either way, so what I found was I learned that I could change a lot of what the tics were, if that makes sense, or kind of like influence what I did. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I can't, but there's one that I do with my throat that if I do it for a few days, my throat freaking hurts. Like it legit hurts. And like I've probably done it 10 to 20 times during this podcast.
Do you have tonsils?
Yes.
Oh.
Either way, so it's just one of the many things I do. Sometimes I'll do it like a lot. Mm-hmm. And when I'm more emotional or like frustrated or whatever, right?
It comes up more.
Yeah. All of the things that I do just become exaggerated.
Yeah.
And either way, yeah, some of the things that I do cause me over a period of time, cause me pain from doing them over and over again. Mm-hmm. One of them is my wrist. So if you ever
I always
hear me crack my wrist like that,
I always notice the wrist that you do.
I try to stop, and I'll literally do it for hours and not even notice it. Just because it's like a tic I do all the time, and it luckily doesn't cause me any pain. Hopefully, it's not bad for me. I've tried to minimize it, so I'm still doing this. I realized after editing my videos, I'm like, wow, I did that like 400 times in 2 hours.
Yeah, it's probably not good. You're probably gonna have arthritis in there pretty soon.
Don't say that. So either way, so I tried to like minimize it, not have it actually like pop. I can pop it every single time.
Yeah.
And I've like tried to like be like, okay, I'm gonna like try not to do it, and I don't do it as much, but yeah, it's rough.
Yeah.
So a lot of people that are autistic think that in being an introvert is like the same thing as autism. Like I don't want to say it's connected, but a lot of people that are autistic think that their lack of wanting to talk in front of people or make eye contact is an autistic thing. Some of it is being an introvert. And so I just forget to look at people's eyes, or just because I don't think about it, and it's never really meant a whole lot to me, if that makes sense. And so, like, other people that are more like emotional are like, oh, I need to connect with the person, so I'm going to look in their eyes when I talk to them to connect with them, right?
Not me.
And so for me, whereas like someone that's an introvert tend to, I think, tend to not like to look at people's eyes and like to kind of avoid that stuff. There are some individuals that are, I guess, more severe in certain areas of autism where when they're looking in people's eyes, it's too much for them as far as overstimulation. Mm-hmm. From what they've expressed, and so they can't do it.
Yeah.
And too many noises overstimulate them as well. I'm able to completely block everything out.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah, I can't look people in the eyes when I'm talking to them. It bothers me too much. People are like, you got to look in their eyes so that you can focus harder, and I'm like, dude, I lose focus if I look in your eyes.
Yeah, but so like I do work for people in their homes, and I have to remember to look them in the eyes so they feel like I'm connecting with them and talking to them. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to me one way or the other.
I can't do it, but
it does to them, and so it doesn't impact me to do it. Mm-hmm. But like I'll get one of the things for autism is hyperfocus, and so I have 3 kids. The oldest is just turned 8. I will sit down. Youngest is 8, sorry. I will sit down and I won't say I currently do, but I used to, and I'm sure it would happen now. But like when my kids were babies, they would cry. And if I was reading something or writing something for school when I was working on my master's degree, basically reading or writing, or sometimes if I was like playing a video game or something, because I would hyper-focus on it, the kid could cry for 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes. I would not know. That they were crying. And then my wife would be like, can you get the baby? And I'd be like, oh yeah, no problem. Sure. I'll go take care of that right now.
Oh yeah. So then it made you look like a a-hole.
Well,
Probably.
but I wouldn't know that they were crying.
Yeah.
Because I was so focused on what I was doing
Yep.
that I legit had to stop playing World of Warcraft, one of the games I enjoyed playing, because I would so hyper focus on it that I couldn't recognize what was happening around me.
Yeah.
And so I had to have people tell me things and, put their hand on my shoulder or whatever to be like, oh, Dave. I'm like, oh yeah, of course.
That's crazy.
Whatever you need, I'm here to help you.
That's crazy.
Yeah. But I couldn't hear it.
Yeah. Mine is the opposite.
Yeah.
I was like that before I had kids, and then I had kids and I'm like, oh, helicopter dad. Any one of my kids cries, dude. I'm like, what? What is this?
I mean, I would go help if I knew they were crying.
Yeah.
But I was so hyper focused, I just didn't know what was happening.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So anyways, just, yeah.